All right, so today we are doing solving one-step equations. Again, this is review, so hopefully you already know how to do this. But if you don't, this is the time for you to actually learn it, okay? So the goal of solving an equation is to isolate the variable, okay? The word isolate means to get the variable by itself, okay? Get it by itself, okay? So that means on one side of the equal sign, you should just have the variable only. To do this, you need to do the opposite of what was done to the variable using inverse operations. So to get the variable isolated by itself, you need to do the opposite by using inverse operations. So let's talk about inverse operations. All right, so for inverse operations, we have adding. And so the inverse of adding would be subtracting, okay? So if the constant is adding to the variable, you will subtract it. That's the inverse, okay? And so then if I am multiplying, I'm going to use a star for multiplication because I cannot stand the X to multiply. The opposite of that would be division. Okay? So those would be the inverse of each other. So it says state the inverse operations here. If we're going to add 23, what would be the inverse of adding 23? It would be to subtract 23. Okay? If I had subtract 18, the inverse of subtract is addition. So I would add 18. The inverse of multiply by negative 15 is to divide by negative 15. Make sure you do not change the sign when you're multiplying or dividing. Okay? And inverse of dividing would be multiply by 8. Okay? That's simple. All right, so let's look at some examples. Okay, so right here we have y plus 3. Our variable is y plus 3 equals 10. So it says where's the variable? It's y. It's only y. So then we have y plus 3 equals 10. So I need to get rid of this plus 3 so the y can be by itself. Okay, I want that y by itself. So I'm going to do the inverse of plus 3. The inverse of plus 3 would be minus 3. If I do something on one side, I have to do it on the other. If I do something on one side, I have to do it on the other. So 3 minus 3 cancels. So now I'm left with y equals 10 minus 3, which is 7. So that's my answer. To check, so you should be able to check your own equations, okay? So as we're starting out, checking is a good practice to make sure you did it right. So instead of y, I'm going to put 7. So now I have 7 plus 3. 7 plus 3 equals 10. 10 does equal 10. That is a true statement. So I am correct. I did the correct thing. So y does equal 7. Okay. Let's look at this example 2. And I put the line through the equal sign. And you'll see me do that more as we add more pieces to the equations, because that way you know if I do something on one side of that line, I do it on the other side of that line. So my variable is y. I need to get the y by itself. I have a minus 7 on that side with the y. So the opposite or inverse of minus 7 would be to add 7 on both sides. This negative 7 and positive 7 cancel, so I crossed it out. Negative 2 plus 7 gives me 5. I bring that y down. The y is isolated. So I have y equals 5. So now let me check my answer. I have negative 2 equals, and instead of y, I'm putting 5 minus 7. Okay, I'm plugging into this formula here. So negative 2 equals, and 5 minus 7 is also negative 2. Negative 2 does equal negative 2, so this is a true statement, so my answer was correct. Okay. Now, on these practice problems, they do want you to check, but once you start feeling comfortable, you might not check, okay? But the checking is good right now because you are still just trying to practice it. Okay, so let's look at these examples here. Press pause here and try to figure those out by yourself first. All right, so I'm going to go through these because you should have already went through them. I'm trying to get the a by itself, so I have plus 6. So the opposite or inverse would be minus 6. So it can cancel, so I'll be left with a equals 11. Okay. Check here. So instead of a, I'm putting 11 plus 6 equals 17. 11 plus 6 does equal 17. So my answer is correct. Right here I have negative 3. Oh, that's not what I was supposed to do. Okay, so right here I need to get the x by itself, so I need to get rid of plus 2. So notice I tried to move the negative 3 first. I can't move that first. I need to get stuff away from the x. So I'm going to do minus 2. Minus 2. So I'm left with x equals negative 5. So then I plug that in to check. So I have negative 3 equals negative 5 plus 2, which gives me negative 3 equals negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. So this one is correct. Okay. Okay, the last two, I'm just going to give you the answers. So I'm going to do plus 17, plus 17. So I'm left with b equals 29. So when I plug in, I have 29 minus 17 equals 12. And 12 does equal 12. This one, I'm doing plus 4 to get that y by itself. So I'm left with y equals negative 2. So I'm plugging in, I had negative 2 minus 4 equals negative 6. And negative 6 does equal negative 6. All right, so you should have had those already done. I just wanted to go through those quickly so we can get to the next part. All right, so on all of those that we just did was adding and subtracting. You were doing adding, so you had to do the inverse, which was subtracting, or you were subtracting, so you had to do the inverse, which was adding. These are multiplication and division equations here. Okay, so remember your inverse of multiplication is division, and your inverse of division is multiplication. Okay. So here it says 8x equals 56. This is where I started. I need to get this x by itself. Notice that between the 8 and the x, there is no operation written. It just says 8x. It is reading as 8 times x. Okay, when there's no operation written in the between the two, the number, the coefficient, and the variable, they are multiplying. These are multiplying. Okay, so I need to do the opposite of that, which is dividing by 8. This fraction bar is saying division, dividing by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1, so it cancels. And then 56 divided by 8 is 7. Okay, so I would check just like I did the other ones. Instead of x here, I'm putting 7. So 8 times 7 is 56. 56 does equal 56, so that one is correct. All right, so let's look over here. Now, I'm going to actually show you 2 ways, but I'm with division, I feel like this is the simplest way you can do it, okay? So This says A divided by 5. This says A divided by 5 equals 12. Okay? So since it says divided by 5, I'm going to do the opposite. And I'm going to multiply. This dot represents multiplication by 5. Okay? I'm multiplying by 5. Remember, you do it on one side, you do it on the other. 5 times 1/5 cancels. Okay? So I'm left with A equals 12 times 5, which gives me 60. Okay? Now I'm going to check. Since A equals 60, I put 60 here. 60 divided by 5 does equal 12. So this answer is correct. Okay? All right, so let's look at these examples here. I'm going to do about 2 examples with you, and then I'm going to just run through the final ones, okay? Press pause, try it by yourself first. Press pause, try it by yourself first. Press pause, try it by yourself first. All right, so this one says -3 times A equals 18. So the opposite of multiplication is division. If I do it on one side, I do it on the other. Those cancel. So I'm left with A equals -6. So I plug it in. I have -3 times -6 equals 18. 18 does equal 18, so that is the correct answer. Okay, this next one here says -4 equals F divided by 3. F divided by 3. I need to get that F by itself. So the opposite of divided by 3 is to multiply by 3. Okay. So 3 times -4 gives me -12 equals F. So I plug it in. So I'd have -4 equals -12 divided by 3. -4 equals -12 divided by 3 is -4. So this one is correct. This one here says B divided by -4 equals 12. So the opposite of divided by -4 is to multiply by -4. Multiply by -4. And I'm using parentheses for multiplication, but you can use the dot. Okay? You can use the dot. So -4 divided by -4 cancels. So I'm left with B equals -48. So if I plug the -48 in, I'd have -48 divided by -4, which equals 12. -48 divided by -4 is 12. So 12 equals 12. So this one is correct. This one says -48 equals -6 times y. This says -6 times y. So the opposite of multiplication is to divide by -6 on both sides. So I'm left with 8 equals y. So when you plug it in, you'll have -48 equals -6 times 8, which gives you -48 equals -48. So this one is correct. Okay. The last two I'm going to just give you the answers to. You have G equals -49, and you have A equals 11. That's what you should have got for those last two. Okay. All right, turn the page. Now this page, I'm not going to do exactly what it's showing you to do because I'm not trying to overcomplicate it. To me, it's, especially since you're using the calculator, you don't have to do this part the way it wants you to do it. So I'm just going to make it very, 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 very simple, okay? So we're not even going to do this part up here. Now, this is technically what you're supposed to do, but I'm going to just show you the way we've been doing it, okay? Because it still works. This says one, so looking at this first one, sorry, you're going to have 1/7t equals 3. 1/7t equals 3. So this 1/7 is saying 1/7 times t equals 3. The opposite or the inverse of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide by 1, 7. Divide by 1, 7 on both sides. These 1/7s are going to cancel, so I'm going to be left with t equals. And you would put this in the calculator. You would put 3 divided by alpha y equals, and you would put 1/7. Okay? And it would give you 21. Okay, so to put a fraction in the calculator, you put alpha y equals, enter. All right? Same steps as we did on the other one. So this is 1/9 times t. 1/9 times t equals -6. So the opposite of multiplication is to divide by 1/9. So t equals, and you put this in the calculator, -6 divided by 1/9, and it will give you -54. Okay? Now, you can only do it this way if you're putting it in the calculator. If you're trying to do it by hand, talk to your math teacher. Okay? I'm just showing you how to do it in your calculator. Press pause now and do your other problems. Okay? Press pause now and do the other problems. All right, so this one you would be dividing by -4/5. -4/5. So you'll be left with t equals -10. Okay? I'm going to give you the answers to the last 3. These 2 you don't have to do. All right, so you would have t equals 10 on this one. X equals 12 on this one. And y equals -2/3 on this one. On this one, you're still dividing by -2/5, but you're going to have to do alpha y equals enter twice. You would have to do 4 divided by 15 divided by alpha y equals, again, -2/5. Okay? All right, and that's how you solve one-step equations.